things happen. And so I really took that to heart. I said, well, I don't know everything I need to know about being a selectman, but I know I can put out or help put out a good town report. So we really put some effort into that over the years. A couple of years we won the award for the best town report in the state. They discontinued giving that award, but we tried to keep up the same standard that we had had before. So, and as everybody knows, I can be obnoxious, and there were a lot of meetings where I would tell people to refer to the town report. I think it got under some people's skin, but I was just trying to advertise. We put out a lot of information.
Yes, we do.
You hear people talk about transparency, and I go, holy cow, just look at the town report. Look at all the financial information, for example, that's in there. So I'll continue to push for that. My daughter Kate reminds me that not everybody needs to have a hard copy of the town report, that there are people who can go online and look at the town report. And I said, yeah, but there are people who can't, and so I want to make sure there's a good hard copy for them. To settle how things started for me, way back in 1990, when there was an opening on the budget committee, it was filled by the town moderator. And the town moderator at the time was Barry Sargent, my next door neighbor, and we'd gotten friendly, and he said, how would you like to be on the budget committee? I said, sure. So I was on the budget committee for 10 years, and then I decided to run for selectman. And I was selectman for 18 years, so a total span of 28 years. I just mentioned that for anybody who's got a wager on the over-under. And I served on various committees. Certainly my heart has been in the recreation program, but not exclusively. As we know, we've worked together on a lot of long-range plans, the CIP, Capital Improvement Program, the master plan, a lot of things where we're looking at the future so that when something comes up, we're able to react. And we finally got the safety complex and the highway garage. I shouldn't call it highway, what is it?
Public Works.
Public
Garage.
Works.
Yes.
And we did that because we had been putting money aside. We had been planning. It didn't come up and hit us, and we went, oh, my God. So I'm really proud of the effort I put in to help for the future planning of the town of Plaistow. And you're right, my family continues. It's kind of a tradition. I'm from a small New Hampshire town where everybody pitched in and did something. My father was chairman of the budget committee in this town for 40 years. My mother was the tax collector. My mother was on the school board. And my favorite story is my dad ran a garage, and his chief mechanic was the police chief. So you had the police chief working for the chairman of the budget committee. Probably the two most honest people you would ever meet in your life, right? But that can happen in a small town, but in bigger towns, people would go, I don't think that's such a good idea. But those guys were tremendously honest and gave a lot to the town of where I grew up themselves. So I'll stop talking now. I did want to get a few things out. I really appreciate this award. This really means something to me. It being the town report makes it even better as far as I'm concerned. And I know Lee did a good job putting it all together, and I'm glad she had a proofreader. We could talk a story about proofreading the town report at another time. One year there was a problem with we didn't proofread the town report. Didn't get done. Things happen. It was mentioned to me. I lined up 4 proofreaders. I said, I'll take care of this problem. 4 proofreaders. Kathy Willis happened to be one of them.
Yeah.
And as we went along, they weren't getting anything to proofread. The staff in the town government had decided to have all the reports proofread at the same time, rather than stagger them. So they waited till the last minute to ask for the proofreading. Proofreaders didn't even have time. They had like one night to turn it over. So we fixed that. So I'll stop talking now and move on, and so you folks can do some real business tonight.
I believe there's one more person that would like to come up and speak.
Just really quick.
Yep.
John first welcomed me 7 years ago when there was not a YMCA in town. And he asked a lot of great questions when we first talked about what the community of Plaistow needed. That was 7 years ago, and I'm fortunate enough that John now serves on my board, and I get great volunteers like John serving the community in an impactful way. Learned a lot. He already jumped in. He's part of our strategic planning committee, and you're people that help inspire us to do the work that we do. So I just want to say thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
And thank you to everyone who attended. When I came in the room, kind of gave it away, you know, but I do appreciate your time, right? Taking that time out to recognize someone in town, that feels great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Help yourself. So I'd like to actually go back to our agenda and put a motion, ask for someone to put a motion on the floor to
I'll
approve
make
the
a
meeting
motion
minutes.
that we approve the February 3rd, 2020 minutes for the Board of Selectmen.
All right, may I have a second, please?
Second motion?
All right, is there any discussion on the minutes? No? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 400. And the next item on the agenda is appointments to the Rec Commission, and I'm not sure if those people are here, so I'll just wait till the room clears for a few minutes. You guys are here, okay, all right. Is Bill going to be up here as well? Yes. Okay.
So if you want, I can just move on to something small right now. I know that they'll
All right,
end up
go
clearing
ahead.
up. So Dean Zanello, the cable coordinator, is not going to be here tonight.
Right.
He has put in a request for some more equipment. So he has a Windows 7 workstation that's obviously expired. Normally, we take that out of the town budget, but because he has a budget for his equipment, we asked him to take it out of, the cable TV budget, which he did. And he wants to upgrade some cameras and some equipment. So his request is for $5,000 to cover these purchases here.
All right, so could I ask for a motion on the floor for approval for this?
There's a draft motion.
Yep.
I'll make,
It's right
I'll
here,
make a
so-
motion to withdraw up to $5,000 from the Cable Franchise Fund to purchase a desktop computer to replace the current 10-year-old workstation and to purchase a 4K camera with accessories to replace the 10-year-old consumer camcorder with professional modern equipment.
All right, may I have a second on that, please?
I second the motion?
All righty, is there any discussion on that?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out, the desktop computer is $2,000.
Yep.
Well, actually, it's $1,500 plus $500 to cover memory, but that's pretty high end for a computer these days, for a desk computer, not a notebook or whatever. I was just trying to figure out what's in it.
Well, the bullet points there talk about the upgrade is for 4K video editing and also for some additional
Software,
memory.
yeah.
So because he, and unanticipated software needs. So I would just tell you that it's my experience that when you have higher end use such as the cable TV, that it's not a regular desktop that we would just use for Word, or we would use, obviously the video and the memory are pretty important in the speed. So that would make a difference to me right out of the gate.
I can add to that, the video editing does not work on normal computers that we purchase for our own purpose of use. We require a very, very high processor plus a separate graphics card with again, its own RAM and a very hefty size CPU to be able to handle that video editing. So that's very, very much within the realm of a computer for that price.
righty. Okay, so any further discussion on this? All right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain? Motion carries 4-0-0. Okay, so I think next we have appointments to the Rec Commission. So if you want to come up front. So I always preface the appointments with the fact that it is a great honor for you to have been appointed to any board or commission in this town, but along with that honor comes responsibility. And so the board wants to make sure that you understand your responsibilities in that you are expected to attend all of your meetings and you are expected to participate. So if you're comfortable with doing that, I'm going to open up the board to questions that both of you have. You could introduce yourselves and just tell us a little bit about yourselves.
My name is Jennifer Gessler. I'm a resident of Plaistow.
Okay.
I've been an alternate on the board for a year now.
Oh,
so
great. Okay.
Now I'm becoming an official member.
Excellent, excellent. So what made you decide to join this particular commission?
I have children, and we are at every rec event.
Okay.
Whether it's
All
with
right.
or without my children, I'm at every rec event. So.
All right, great. Enough said. Thank you. How about you?
I'm Leah McKean. I live at 80 Main Street. I also have a child in town, and he's getting a little older, so it's given me a little more time to be able to help out more rather than just be right on top of him. We are very involved with rec as well, and I've been attending the meetings relatively regularly, trying to
Excellent.
keep up, and have been just taking it all in, and I just want to be able to help.
All right, it's very much appreciated that you are willing to step up and contribute to the town. So we have your appointments here, and at the end of the evening, we will sign off on them, and you will be formally appointed, so congratulations. Thank you. All right.
I have
You're
a
welcome.
question
Thank you for
Bill.
coming. And,
Bill's
yeah,
there.
sure. Bill, come on up.
Since you're the man in charge these days, a lot in charge.
Not for long, though, hopefully.
These are going to be new full-time members.
Full-time member.
So who are they replacing?
Alternate,
Oh, that's the alternate?
it would be Lisa Petrie.
Okay.
She had to step down just with her family activity. She's just too busy. She's got kids in high school. She's all over the place.
All over the
Okay.
place. All right, great. All right.
That would be it.
All right, congratulations. We look forward to working with you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for coming in tonight. Okay. All right. So our next item agenda is the pilot program. And I left a copy of some of this information on your desktops here tonight. At our last planning board meeting, we spent a great deal of time discussing the increase of business coming to 125, especially with potable water. And our planning board wants to take a proactive approach so that we are controlling the amount of businesses, the types of businesses, and the kinds of businesses that we want to see in Plaistow. And so to that end, there are a number of nonprofit organizations and businesses that would love to do business in our town. And as you know, most of those nonprofits do not pay taxes. There is a program that's called a pilot program, and it's called Pay in Lieu of Taxes. And I would like the board to just consider taking a proactive approach to this and creating a policy so that when this opportunity comes up, we do have something in place that we can go back to the nonprofits and say, well, you know, this is the way we would like to structure things. Now, granted, they have to approach us to say that they are tax exempt and they are exempt from taxes. So that's the first piece of it. And the other piece that you need to know is that this is a voluntary program. So we can ask them to pay taxes or pay a portion of it, and they can refuse. However, in the spirit of community, I'm really hoping that a lot of these entities and businesses will step up to the plate and help to contribute to being good neighbors in our community. So I don't want to do anything with it at this point in time, but I would love you guys to kind of look it over and all the other paperwork that you have to look over. And if you think that this is a good program to pursue, we can discuss it a little bit more at further meetings and actually craft a policy so that we have something in place so that, when people come down the road and say, well, we're non-exempt from taxes, that we have an appropriate response and precedent for it.
Would this be a town code, Francine?
I'm thinking more of a policy as opposed to a code, but once we all agree and we craft something, it's going to have to go to legal anyway to make sure that we're within our boundaries. But
Okay.
you have a lot of information there, and you also have the RSA statutes that cover it as well. So if you guys want to look it over, we can discuss it a little bit more at the next meeting.
Okay.
Has this
Sure.
been discussed with John Cashel?
I did meet with John Cashel regarding this, and I also discussed this initially with the planning board a little bit, but it's more of a Board of Selectmen policy type of thing. And so if that should happen and we do draft a policy, it does not need to go into zoning ordinances or laws. So I did speak with him on that. But yes, he was the one that gave me a lot of this information, so he kind of ran point on this.
I'd like to get some information on how this has worked or not worked in other communities.
Well, it's
New
all in
Hampshire.
there. It is all in there. There's a bunch of examples in there, and it's a lot of stuff for you to read, and that's why I didn't want to, discuss it in great detail tonight. So it's for you to
Yeah.
look over, and then we can discuss it maybe at our next meeting on March 2nd.
Because it is a concern sometimes. We want certain types of businesses in
Absolutely.
the town, but then
Absolutely.
again, we also have the same issue of taxes going up. And so you have to find some balance there.
Yes.
And I guess we'll look at this.
Yep, and actually, take a position, and I'm also actually meeting with Chief Knudsen this Thursday to get a kind of sense of what his needs may be, because I'm trying to be very creative about this and not necessarily just offer a tax break, but maybe perhaps a payment of an employee, either in the police or fire department. So I have to get all my little things together, too, before we go and discuss this. But I just want you to be aware of that's something that I think this board, as a policy maker and as a visionary for our town, we need to take a look at this stuff and not be reactive. So, any questions or thoughts or, no, nothing? All right. Okay, so, we have a short agenda this night. This is great. We have approval of prior non-public minutes, and we have to go into non-public for a few other things. So if we can skip that and just go on to the town manager's report before we do all of that non-public stuff, that'll be good. So, Mr. Pearson, if you're ready.
Yeah, so in your package tonight, you have end-of-year financials. So I don't suspect that you'll have time to actually review those before the next meeting. But generally speaking, I can tell you a couple things. As you know, a budget is a plan, and sometimes the plans work pretty good, and in other categories, they, something that you don't anticipate happens, or, there's an anomaly. So we got a lot of anomalies that really have to do with filling of positions because of the way the economy is right now. So there is a surplus in our personnel line for the retirement system and for our health benefits because of those vacancies. At the same time, there was some over expenditures in other line items, such as the unanticipated expenditure for assessing of $39,000. The salary line, vacation buyouts are somewhat anticipated that there'll be a percentage of people that will take the buyouts, but that amounted to $25,000. There was something that, as this board knows, that I took a proactive step for an IT security assessment. That was $9,800, so that was something that was real important that we needed to do, and it wasn't planned for. And along with that was the IT computer upgrades that were unanticipated, that we didn't have a capital plan from our IT provider about replacing units. And of course, we got caught with that Windows 7 and blindsided that all of a sudden we had to upgrade. Going forward, we're going to have a computer capital improvement plan and know these things ahead of time, instead of every year we're faced with some kind of unanticipated computer expense. Slight increase on the street lights, electricity costs went up by $6,000. Something, we budget for what we anticipate, but the electricity rates went up by $6,000. And retirement system, we had an anomaly there where there was an employee, a full-time employee that there was not, the withholdings were taken out of the employee's check, but there was no contribution on the town's part. And that was because a person in that position that was supposed to account for that didn't account for that. That person is no longer here, but it goes back to 2018. And so we were on the phone and communicating with New Hampshire Retirement System last fall, trying to get that resolved, and it didn't get resolved till just last week. And that was $26,000. Now, we had the money for that. It's just that we tried to get it resolved in 19, but we didn't get it resolved. So that's one of the delays in closing out the books for 19. Repairs and maintenance of town buildings, that budget was overspent by $33,000. Again, there's things that happen that you need to take care of and be proactive on. The highway department went over by $16,000 approximately. So on the plus side, the police budget was underspent by $124,000, and again, the health savings was underspent by $234,000, and the overall retirement system was underspent by $72,000. So in the financials, I believe that the final figure is about $233,000 that is the surplus for 2019. Now, that number could move a little bit, but we think we've captured the large majority of the big things. And, it's a process to close this out even into March. But that's where we're at. So we've done real well to have a surplus of that in 2019. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have at this point.
I just have a quick one on the street lighting. I know we had to front money for the street lighting project to our vendor, and that's been reconciled as of this budget, correct?
Yeah, that was not going to be used from our budget. I don't believe, the discussion I remember is that we would have to front the money, but we'd get the money back, and it'd all be part of
Right.
using our general fund. It wouldn't be this right here.
All right.
So the street light costs went up by $6,000.
Is that the reason?
Yes.
Yeah,
The
okay.
electricity
All right,
costs.
I just want to make sure that people out
Yeah.
there know. And I guess according to Dee, there are 275 lights already put up. And I think we've been getting very positive responses on the neighborhoods that have had the new street lighting. So it should be finished within the next couple of weeks, so that'll be good.
So I'll continue with my report.
Yes.
And I had a staff meeting on Wednesday, January 15th. I'm going to try to increase those monthly staff meetings. It's been a little tough to schedule staff meetings because of what's been going on with the schedules with everybody and people out of work and so forth. So I'm going to try to get that back on track. My office has been very busy, also. So the Southern New Hampshire Regional Interconnection Project, the Waterline Project, I wrote you kind of a long summary here, but let me just tell you the highlights. The highlights are, I've spent several days up in Concord. March 9th, which is a Monday, there's a public hearing or a commission meeting that is open to the public, and we're looking for a positive recommendation from the committee to approve and recommend to the governor and council for the May meeting to approve the portion of the project here in town with grants totaling $9,235,300. That number can go higher because of additional MTBE sites that they're finding. In fact, I got notification today they found another. It also doesn't cover the past grant funding that we've received for engineering costs. This is for what they call them the P projects for Plaistow, Plaistow 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it's for all the phases, the pump house bringing the water into town, the MTBE sites, all of the road work, and the tower. So those are the four major components. Their intent is to approve it and recommend it to the governor and council either in May. I'm not sure if the beginning of May, middle of May, or end of May, to the governor and council, should that pass there, which we have no reason to believe it wouldn't, that it would immediately go to RFP. We would make a quick turnaround. The plans are at 90%. Everybody's scrambling right now for 100%. We're still waiting for the Atkinson easement, so we're hoping that will work itself out. The state would like to see the town of Plaistow turn the water on in 2021. So just to give you an idea what my life or my office might be like for the next year, just imagine Wentworth Ave, East Road, the pumping station, Westville Road, Hill Spring Road, Sweet Hill Road, the neighborhood behind Dunkin' Donuts, and the water tank, just to mention, not mentioning all of the MTBE connections to the individual houses that have contamination, and all the other lateral connections for people that have pipes in front of their house. That's like 10 separate and distinct projects. I'm gonna be very busy for the next 2 years. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you take that $9.2 million and the other money, that's equivalent to a year's budget here. We're right there.
Right.
But the big thing is to get the pipes in the ground and get it turned on. So I'm gonna be very busy. The good news is, we've got the infrastructure in place with the highway garage, the public works garage, with the water garage, with the equipment that we need. Hopefully the forklift warrant article will pass, because we're gonna need that for the pallets and the supplies that need to go up on the mezzanine. We're gonna have to have product over there on the site, fire hydrants and pipe and things like that. We have the offices set up for the senior project engineers to work out of that garage over there. I anticipate I'll be over there nearly every morning for the meetings and get everybody, answer the questions and so forth. Dee will be busy with that project with me. In addition to that, she'll also be busy with the Pollard Road culvert project, should that happen, plus her regular job. Dan Garlington will also be involved with a lot of the lateral street connections because of the potential to tear up streets or make cross connections or to do the tunneling, and some questions he'll be asked to help. Greg Colby will also be helping with setting up with the Water Enterprise Fund, which is not a big deal in itself. He'll work with us, he'll work with you. You'll be busy with the project to set the rates, which you're getting close to doing, and the water ordinance and connection fees, and then the contractor for the water operation system, the RFP, and selecting that. Just plan on being busy. You're gonna be very busy with this project as well as the staff.
Mark, what is the status of the infrastructure projects to bring water from Manchester, the piping that goes from Manchester through all the other
It's funny
towns?
you ask. Since I live in Salem, I make a trek up 28, and I did it today. So they started in Derry with one contractor, and then they started in Windham with another contractor, and because it was a state road, what they didn't want, they didn't want two contractors working back to back. What they wanted was some separation, because it's a busy road. So state police were out there today directing traffic because of the state road, and they have to manage that traffic, and they have 2 lanes going. So they set up the cones to keep 2 lanes going, because it's a busy road. So they're not gonna be working next to each other, so they work, one works one way, one works the other, and there's a staggering and so forth. So by June of this year, they anticipate that connection of that pipe from Derry to Salem to the intersection of Route 28, where the gas station is, and right where the old Route 111 was.
Right.
That will be all set for a ribbon cutting around June. And I think the governor's gonna be coming down, and all the people affiliated with the water project, because it's really the first milestone of the project is to connect up the big pipe down 28 to get us to Salem. Because when you get to Salem, then those cross-country connections are already in place out to the end of Salem, and then they've already done one to West Side Drive, from Salem to West Side Drive. They're doing a pump house there. Then we're on Hawk system. So essentially, by connecting up this connection here in June, that, if you follow the water there, whether it's Salem's water or that water coming, it's gonna come out into Hawk and make its way potentially to Bryant Woods. From there, Bryant Woods is where we pick it up to connect through East Road. So it's good. It's kind of short answer to a big question,
Right.
but you can see the connection. So they're working on it. One of the challenges they have is the new 111 has a no cut. And DOT is not letting them cut the road to connect the pipe across. So they have to go down in the ground to do a horizontal boring underneath the new 111 there to do that, because, and that might be something that they didn't anticipate. There's been some setbacks along the way. First of all, they've hit a lot of ledge. Second of all, they've had some issues trying to negotiate a easement for a pump station in Derry. And third of all, they had a treatment place, a hut in Windham, that they think that they've located in a place that they're gonna have to move. So they've got their challenges, but overall, they're gonna make that happen. And once they get through that, the trials and tribulations, the water's gonna be essentially on our doorstep, which is why they want us to go. Because we're part of the first phase. There's a second phase for more water, but we're all want to get connected up for the first phase. So we got notice today. I don't know how many letters, 6 or 7 letters. I put them in your folders there. They're ones from DES. It's a cover letter right on top, Madam Chairman, right there where your hand is. So all of you got one page, but there's about 6 or 7 town properties that have to be tested. So I had instructed D to contact New Hampshire DES. So we're going to get the free testing of all of our town properties to determine what type of chemicals or what type of issues are in our wells. So that happened today. That's a similar letter that everybody else gets too, that the state is doing additional testing in town. And if they do additional testing and find something else, then they're going to be added to the list. That's why that list will keep on happening. So I don't want to bore you with too much information on water. I think you understand it. The bottom line is, very important May meeting, very important March meeting to support the agenda to approve and recommend to the Governor Council. And, we'll have a new selectman on board in March that will start participating in your water ordinance. And I do have a book for you, Jay, and I forgot to bring it up, but I have a book in my office that is my book that I'm glad to lend you. And then the Underwood Engineers is making up a new book so that you can get up to speed on that, because we definitely want you to be up to speed. Okay, I'm gonna switch gears to landfill. So there was a meeting at DES with our consultants, Normando and Sanborn Head. It was last Tuesday in Concord. It centered around the old landfill, the cap, but it actually, the meeting really got involved with previous things that the state was aware of that had nothing to do with our landfill cap. Last July, they sent us a notice because of some monitoring issues with the wells around there that showed some higher levels of some things that they were concerned with. They're gonna require us to put in some more monitoring wells. And then we also have our salt that's leaching down into the wells of the industrial park next to us, so that has to be addressed and remediated, which is why we have a plan for a salt shed that would take that salt shed off of that site. They also brought up about the tires that are above ground. The good news is just their concern right now is the tires above ground, not below ground, so that's a good thing. And then there was an issue with methane. Overall, the methane readings up there are going higher. So they're gonna be looking at what we can do to remediate the methane. And I don't have any answers for you, what it is that they require you to do, but one of the options is to do some trenching, but I don't understand all of that yet. So the good news is that DES will work with us, and we're working with our consultants, and I'll report back to you when I have more information. And they also know that we're being proactive, and that kind of takes the pressure off, because they know that we're working with them, and we're ready to take this issue on head on. Because let's face it, budgetarily, you can try to say, let's not do this and let's not do this year. There is no good year to do it, and it will get it more expensive as years go by. You cannot run away from this. This is a perpetual liability for the town, and you just need to take it head on, because you can reduce down your costs by taking it head on than to just delay it, because it's not gonna get any better next year. It's gonna get worse.
And I believe the warrant specified that the monies would be taken out of the unassigned fund balance, which really was not going to affect the tax rate for the taxpayer. So that's why it's so critical when people, don't understand when we have surpluses in revenue or budgets, that's what we put the money away for, rather than having to take out bonds and pay interest. So
And I
it's a
haven't-
long-term look at
And I
things.
haven't heard of anything that really raises the, big red flag saying that this is not something that we can't take care of financially within our means, with, spread out over a number of years, and use our unassigned fund balance. So we're not proposing to do something dramatic that's gonna cause any impact to the tax rate. We're proposing to take care of it with the funds that we have, and we'll spread it out over time, and we'll have a plan, and you'll know what that plan is. But the plans are gonna get more expensive the longer you delay. So we're gonna also look at to see if there's some value in, if we could take the tires and shred the tires on site, and if the state would allow us to actually use the tires in the voids of the landfill, and then cover it over. So instead of paying disposal, that would be much higher. So we're gonna look at all those options. We're gonna be doing some digging with the water lines. If there was some soil there or something that can be reused up at the landfill, because they're digging out and they have to put in new sand and put in other new material to meet the specifications and so forth, or say there's bad, bad soil that is not suitable for going back in the ground, that's more material that we can start looking at that, because we'll be looking at this project, to generate some material. So we'll look at that. On the other hand, if it's good material, we'll look at that for the, for the softball field. So we're gonna manage material is what we're gonna do. The tearing out of the sidewalks here at Pollard, I've talked to Jim Parker. We're gonna take that material, and it's going over to the new Public Works facility, because we got a bunch of material over there, and then we're gonna contract with him to do the screening and the material, and hopefully we can take a bulk of that material and bring all that material up to Park to use it to raise up the grade there for the softball field. And if there's some grindings that we can use for the path, we can use it for the path. So anytime we can reuse material and not have to buy new material, no doubt that the final material, the top material, will be more or less processed and we'll have to buy. But if we can use up all the material we have in town here, that would be a good use of our surplus material. Okay, so I'll get past that one. New highway garage, or public works garage. So I was able to purchase a 16-foot conference table with 11 chairs from Connecticut for $1,000. So I have it in that big room, now, and it's a lot better than that 8-foot table, because we're gonna need it for a lot of meetings. So that's in there. The equipment, the bays are full now with our highway department equipment, and it's been able to let us move in the other equipment that's still up at the old landfill. For instance, the loader. The loader has to stay up there because of the salt, so that will remain up there. We were able to put the New Holland tractor inside. We were able to put some other equipment that's never been inside, the wood chipper and the blower. We've got our equipment in a building now, and they're really working on this equipment daily. And today was a milestone, because they started to pressure wash the vehicles in our facility, and they bought a solution that neutralizes salt, so that when they clean the frames off, and they spray this fluid in there, and then they wash the fluid off, it neutralizes the salt. So after the season's over, we're gonna do it again, and it will just neutralize, because one of the things, when you think you're washing off the salt off of your frame and the undercarriage, you're not getting it all, and it's still gonna rot. I know Mr. Blinn probably has seen his share of that type of rot on the frames. So this is the plan of the capital improvement plan of trying to make our vehicles last longer, and I had said the new facility would allow us to do that. We can wash our vehicles inside, it goes into the drain, it goes to a tank, it's got an oil separator, we're within all the bounds of EPA and DES. This is where the plan has come true. And they can take better care of our equipment, bottom line. So it's really working out well. I invite you to come over to the garage on any given day. They're gonna be working on a lot of different projects, and they can do a lot of the maintenance in-house. And what they can't do in-house is some of the bigger jobs they just don't have the equipment for, but they're gonna take care of a lot of the maintenance in-house.
When is the planning scheduled to pave the entrance to the
Well,
garage?
So that's a complicated question, because the $950,000, as I've been going through that money to do all these last-minute things, the last time I knew, I might be down around $18,000 as a remainder. So there's only a couple little things I have to do, but there's not enough. $18,000 doesn't probably buy us a paved parking lot. My hope is that with the, if the salt shed passes, that's where the money will come from to do the bulk of that paving there. I think I'll do some paving with whatever funds I have left, but we're gonna have to, it's gonna be a work in progress. The other thing is, we don't wanna pave where we're gonna be digging lines across to the salt shed, because there's some underground electric lines that you know, tubing that you have to put in the ground there. So we don't wanna pave it to dig it up either.
Right.
So I did contract with a contractor to excavate out all the soil around the building and put in all that good soil so it's ready for paving. All he's gotta do is do a final grading, and it can be paved with a binder. So we may, in fact, do that. Say $10,000 gives me an apron around the building.
okay.
We can do that, because it's better for us to get the apron done, you know, and then we can work on the final part. So that's a work in progress.
Mark, do we have a time frame for the, like, the finished landscaping and
Well,
I'm asking because of Old Home Day, because
yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts, because all that material I told you, there's piles over there that were a result of that construction, and there was piles that were a result of the Safe Routes to School construction and Westville Road, which is all good for us because we accumulated materials. So it's about trying to schedule them to go out. But to your point, what we do before the Old Home Day is we go over there and grade everything off and back drag everything and make as much parking as possible. And it was full last year, and it'll be full this year. So we'll have adequate place for parking. Dan always goes over there and does it, and he barricades anything that you don't want people to drive on. So we still gonna have quite a bit of parking over there. And it will get bigger if we can get the material off the site by that time, then it will even be more parking. So we'll work on that. Street light replacement, you have a new number there. I had 120, you have another number, right?
275 as of
275.
today, yeah.
So that's out of 454 lights, so you've passed the halfway mark
Yeah.
on that.
which streets have they done? I haven't seen any.
I don't have a list.
Dee has a map, and it shows literally in live time how many lights they're putting up here and there. And I know Meadowview has done one of the first ones, but I haven't really been keeping track of it because I live on a state road, and I'm never going to get a good light where I live, so I have not been paying attention.
So I'm holding off on doing the RFP for the salt shed till I know that warrant article passes. Recreation Commission, update on engineering design. The chairman, John Sherman, Charlie Zilch, Bill Coy, Recreation Chairman, we met in my office last Friday to look over the review and design and the engineering, gave more direction to Charlie. He knows exactly what it is he has to come back with. It's about trying to get us from park, the park as we know it, across the drainage swale, up into the rights-of-way, our land and some easements to get to the major part of the trail network that is for the grants. So he says it's about 1,600 feet, it's about a quarter mile, and he's working on that final plan. We really need this piece to get to the trails. We have the trails and the Appalachian Mountain Club people in the grant for the trails. We have a proposed project for the build a softball field and build an access road and drainage, and then a path to get there. What we have is a gap from the fence at the back of park to the major part of those parcels in Mount Misery. That's the part he's working on, and once he has a plan, they'll go out there and mark it for us, and then we'll look at what we need for excavation, and then we're gonna have to look at what it would cost to excavate the trail through that, because it's kind of there's a lot of elevations there, and a crossing. But I happen to have a steel bridge crossing that I'll donate to the town. I got two of them, so depending on the width of that thing, I got a longer one and a shorter one. I'm gonna donate that to the town, I'll bring it over to the highway garage, and then we'll prep it, and then the contractor will be able to lift it and put it in place, because no matter how you do this, you have to cross the swale. And so we'll do best management practices, and we'll put this in place, and we'll have it sandblasted and painted, and put the decking on and do it. But it's the elevation, you know, it's not just crossing, but it's, you know, you don't wanna cross and then hit a wall. You gotta excavate that to get that so that it's a slight grade to get out there. So that's the big thing we're working on now.
Mark, are some of those trails gonna be handicap accessible?
I haven't heard anything about it, and you know, I don't know that trails can ever be totally handicap accessible. It depends on what they have. I've heard of different types of motorized wheelchairs that can go through, navigate through some outdoor things. I mean, I think it'd be a stretch for me to say that all of the trails going out in Mount Misery are gonna be handicap accessible. I think what we're gonna do is, we're gonna try our hardest to make the access points and to get out to some point to meet whatever standards we can, but, you know, it's just simply grades on trails that are gonna be too steep for somebody to go up or down. And, you know, I don't know the topography out there, because I haven't been out there. It'd be nice to think it would be all handicap accessible, I just don't think so.
Even if it was a portion, it would be nice for somebody.
Yeah.
And I believe the Appalachian Mountain Club is going to be making recommendations to the Rec Commission as far as the most applicable place and piece of that trail to do that with.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to happen sometime, maybe in late summer, early fall.
So we're still waiting for the public safety road and the cemetery expansion projects. Again, it's Charlie, Jim Hanley. You know, we have to have a set of plans to go out to RFP, so we're waiting for all those plans to come in so we can put those out to RFP. The Plaistow Courthouse meeting, as you've read in the paper, there's a lot of opinions out there about what we knew, what we didn't know. I only know what I know, and I know that they came last year and said, we're gonna be new for a year, and we'd like to look around, and we'd like to look for a location in Plaistow. That's what they told me. That has changed to, we're moving you to Salem. And I didn't find out they were moving us to Salem till the day of the meeting. So there's been nothing in writing until recently that it's going to Salem. So we had a meeting. I think it was a meeting they felt they had to have, but the deals, their minds have already been made up.
Yep.
So we can expect the courthouse will be vacant, you know, July 1st. Pollard Road Culvert, ARM grant. In your folder, you should have a piece of paper from the Executive Council.
Yep.
And I know I've got one. You got one? It's the Governors and Council approved the grant. So all we're waiting for is the town meeting vote to approve our portion of the funds, and the grant's already been approved by Governor and Council. So the state's actually ahead of us. So if it's approved, I'll be coming back to you, as soon as we advertise it for the grant. There's no sense for us to accept the grant until we know that we're gonna have the town portion of funding. So there's gonna be a lot of grants coming before you in a couple months. So almost $10 million worth of grants, so if you're so inclined to take that money and approve it.
Why is the approval so late, December 31st, 2026?
I looked at that date and said, I think that somebody made a mistake, but I said to myself, whether it's a mistake or not,
We'll keep
if-
it.
say they
We'll
meant,
keep it.
say they meant 2020, we're good,
Yeah.
because it would be done in 2020. If they meant 2021, we're good. The fact that they said 2026, like, I thought about that. Do I want to call? And I said, why? Why bother?
We never look a gift horse in the mouth.
We got the grant. We're not worried about the expiration date, because we're going to use that money in 2020.
Okay.
But I did notice that. It was kind of a funny one, because it really stands out to be, it's different than the others. I can't answer that question. Part-time administrative assistant at the fire department started today, so we will bring her in when we have a chance. We still have not had a candidate for part-time. dispatcher. We have a full-time opening. We've had several interviews. People have not been successful in the interviews. We still have one full-time dispatcher. We think we have a good candidate, and if everything works out, this candidate, if they pass all of the background, will be a candidate that I'll bring before you. So that would finish up with our dispatchers that we've been working on almost monthly for the last year or two. Full-time police officers. So we're in a very tough position right here because one of the officers is leaving April 1st to go to Lynn, Mass. We've had another one leave to go to Boston. So effective April 1st, we'll be down 3 full-time positions, even though we've hired 2 that I brought to the board. We're going to be down 3, and the 2 that we've hired are going to be at the police academy for better part of May, June, and July, and won't be back until August.
Okay.
So that means we're going to be down 5 bodies on the bottom end of the patrol, which is the bodies going out on the street. So just to give you an idea of how that works out right now, even right now, without even, when we've got some bodies now, there's mandatory call-ins weekly to fill patrol shifts to keep the staffing where the safety levels for the officers has been determined to be. I'm not telling you that it's a horrible thing, but you just have to understand that they have these shifts and they're spreading them out and forcing people to come in to work it, albeit on overtime, because they don't have the bodies. We are out there actively recruiting to the best of our ability to try to find people, and we're just not going to lower our standards to up our average. We have to stick with hiring quality people, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Mark, any of the officers that were hired for outside detail, would any of them be interested or possibly be? No. You answered that way too quickly.
No, because they're all experienced officers that have 20 or 30 years out on the street, and they've done their career, and they're retired, and the lure that I had to bring him here was to lure him away from other outside detail communities with sort of the promise that there'll be enough work here for them, that they'll be able to come in, and none of them wanted to work the street because, they've done that for their career. And it's a different pay structure. It's less than half pay an hour than they can make working outside detail. And even if they didn't work for us, they can work for another community for that detail pay. So they're not gonna take a job to go back out to do the job they retired from to work it for half pay. I don't even think you could get them to work it for full pay. It's just, that ship has sailed. The front line and so forth. They don't mind being in a secondary role. They don't mind helping out, and I'm sure every one of them will jump into action if they're needed at a call because they're working. But that's not what they want to do, is come in, because quite frankly, they're going to get, well, we need somebody for a midnight shift. We need somebody for, on a Saturday night. We need something on a Friday night. That ship has sailed with them. I mean, so they serve another role, which is to keep the money in town here for the outside details. And the promise is that there's no mandatory requirement to do that. So no.
Okay.
No, it's just not the way it was presented to them. It's not what they were interested in, and they wouldn't have come here if they knew that was going to be something that was going to be pushed on them.
Right.
So the chief and I are gonna manage this, and we're working, we're recruiting without stepping on other people's toes. But so isn't everybody else. I mean, we don't even have people going to job fairs to try to recruit people, and there's job fairs, I think I've told you, I've gone to, and there's the police departments there recruiting at job fairs. So we're not even the most active out there recruiting. I don't have the people to send to the recruiting, to recruit people. Where am I gonna get those people? So it's tough. It's tough, but it's everybody is experiencing this in the police world, and it's getting competitive. And our $10,000 sign-on bonus has been growing. There's places now that offer a $5,000 sign-on bonus to be not certified, and a $10,000 to be certified. So we're competing against everybody else. Human Services, we haven't had any luck finding anybody for that. The nice part about that is we're not getting inundated with a lot of requests for Human Services right now. But we're going to keep an eye on that and see if we can get that filled. There's interviews for the Recreation Director vacancy on March 3rd. So that's moving along. I had to hire a plumbing inspector because of an issue. We'll be going to non-public a little bit later, and we can talk a little bit later. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any, right now. I think you have everything that I've been working on. It's been very busy. I've been up in Concord. I've got a few parking tickets up in Concord. I don't carry enough quarters with me, or. So all in all, we have less people doing the same amount of work, and so people's duties have increased exponentially. People are rising to the challenge. People are doing more work. We've got some good cooperation going on, and we'll just continue, and we'll try to get some help. This Wednesday, I will have the document management records person starting, soft start, and we'll be looking at the big picture and prioritizing the records that was proposed for that that project. And it will be a slow start, and we'll get going, and eventually we'll get records will start going into that storage room, and records will be starting to be purged from the building here, and records will be put into our system that can be accessed online. So that is going to be a soft start, and we're going to work our way, and we'll get it going.
Any questions?
No, I just wanted to say that you're going to earn your pay this coming couple of years. You said 10 things on the water? Well, your bull list is 26 of them, and it wasn't even all the ones you mentioned.
Yes, yes.
So
I hate to say this, but I think I bit off a little bit more.
Well, and luckily for you, you do have a working board who will be ready and willing to assist you in any other ancillary projects and support you in whatever you need to do. So you are not in this by yourself.
Well, what I didn't anticipate is that the state was going to really come around.
Yeah,
to
give us
our
all
way
at
of
once,
thinking,
yeah.
saying, here you go, the whole project. I kind of figured, yeah, well, they'll probably give us this one, and they'll probably give us this one, they'll probably push it out, but they were like, nope, we're going to do the whole thing. And so
It's
forth.
probably better off to have the whole chunk all at once, so you don't have to keep going to Concord to beg for stuff, and you can do that at your own
No,
pace and
that's
time.
that's not the problem. I mean, that's good that we know what we have.
Right.
It's about trying to make it work. One of the logistical things is just think about our arterial roads. If you got Sweet Hill and Hale Spring at the same time that you got Wentworth, at the same time that you've got Westville, at the same time that you've got East Road, think about what that does to
The
traffic in
traffic
town.
nightmare, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to be looking at the sequencing to see what I can do. And at the same time, Dan has told me that the Wentworth Ave, and I drive it every day, and I should notice it myself. I just, when you drive over a bumpy road every day, you tend to forget about it. So I come in that way. But he told me that Wentworth Ave is really getting bad. The reason why he's telling me that is because, they're going to be tearing it up to put the line in. So we're not going to do any road work until it's torn up and so forth. So it's about the sequencing. The good news is we won't be shutting down roads. We'll keep it open to traffic. The bad news is it might have some profound effects on people's timing. And maybe they'll seek alternate routes, and maybe they'll be driving through some streets that people don't want them to drive through. But, we're not going to close down Westville Road. It will be open. But,
So it's going to affect my commute.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Pollard Road is going to shut down. That's going to affect your commute.
I won't know where to go.
Yeah, so on top of that, picture Pollard Road at the same time. You
gonna be
plot this
tough.
on the
Yeah,
map.
I know.
It's like right there. So we're going to have to work on it. On a side note, Chief Mullen pulled the mothballs off of the 2 radar trailers that we have. Both are solar. One is down on the lower end of Main Street right now. Last week it was over in front of the high school, and it's going to be moved around. It's going to be in operation every day of the week now. You put new batteries in it, it's out there, it's gonna be out there to slow traffic down all over town, number one. Number two, the second one is a bigger one that's a message board, but it's also a radar trailer, and you can program it for messages or speed. We'll end up using that for
Right.
dual purposes
Right.
and so forth. We might even purchase another message board because of the amount of construction. We might even put into the contracts for the people doing the construction that we require them to purchase a message board to help out. And we may even say that they gotta purchase a message board that will become the property of town at the completion of the project. So we're gonna work on that, but we're gonna need some message boards, and we're gonna need some, we're gonna need some cooperation, and there's gonna be some tricky things going on as far as commutes and so forth, so we're gonna have to deal with it.
So that brings up a question that I have. Will the school bus services need to be integrated into this
Sure.
project as
sure.
well?
But
All right.
the big thing is
That's
that
not till
the
September.
Pollard Road would be the only closure. Everything else will be open, but it might be narrowed down, but it would be
Right.
open. But the Pollard Road, but we're gonna try to do the Pollard Road on the same formula that we did the Westville, is to have it
Right.
open for the
Right.
time for school.
Okay,
So we're gonna work on that.
okay.
So there's one more thing. So Chief Knutson, the fire chief, and I, he's been very proactive, and he has located a MOU potentially with a couple other towns around us.
MOU.
Memor of understanding.
Memorandum of
Oh,
Understanding.
okay.
I'm sorry. So a memorandum of understanding that we could voluntarily enter into to receive assistance with the fire grants for fire radios. So I asked him to qualify that, to tell me, how many radios and whether they're portable or they're mobile, and, what's the cost and what are we looking at? Because the board has authorized, because I had asked the board a long time ago, prior to you getting on the board, for permission for all department heads and myself to apply for grants, and then we'd come to the board for the acceptance. Because it
Right.
didn't make
Yeah.
sense for us to come to you every time we wanted to
Right,
apply.
right.
So we got the blanket, we can apply, we come back to the board, which has worked out fine. But this MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, is a document that you're agreeing beforehand to participate. So it's different than a blanket to apply, because it'd be subject to you saying yes or no. This is kind of more or less putting the yes or no at the beginning. So I said to the fire chief, get me all the information, and then you and I will come in before the board, we'll explain it to the board, and then the board will decide on whether you want us to enter into the memorandum of understanding. And we can put some clauses in there that we tend to put in there in a lot of our contracts, which is the a non-appropriation clause. So if they're acceptable with us putting in the non-appropriation clause, then we have that as an escape
Yeah,
clause
yeah, yeah.
if it's not funded. But the other things we can look at is where would the funding come from? Is it gonna come from the radio equipment fund that we've already got established? Is it gonna come from, some other fund that we've already got established? Now, the money very well could already be there. I haven't had time to do it, because this was over the weekend. So we'll look at that, and we'll have all those answers for you and bring it into you, and then you'll be part of that discussion, because at the end of the day, either you're for it or you're not for it, and we need to know that. So I'll be bringing that in with the chief soon. So that's what I have. I'm not gonna speak about what you're gonna speak about, probably about the disaster recovery plan.
Yep.
If you're gonna talk about that.
Not at
I
this
don't wanna steal
point.
your thunder.
No, we're not going to go into discussion. I was going to just,
Okay.
during the selectmen's report, I'll just talk about what we're doing and not about it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
I got a question while you're still on the manager's report. You gave us a letter from the DES commissioner
Yes,
concerning various properties.
yes.
And I see the Hale Spring Pump House is listed on there.
Yes,
That's town property.
yes.
So are we going to request the testing for that property?
Already did today.
Okay.
Way ahead here. But, you bring up the Hale Spring property. I wasn't gonna bring it up, but since you did, it made me do some research today. So I had pull out the deeds and the research. So there is a driveway that is it's not really shown on the map. There's a driveway to get into the Hale Spring property. And so I talked to the previous fire chief, Dick Latham, today at length, and he's gonna actually bring in a file for me. So that is a town-owned piece of property that has a well on it, and he told me that at times when people ran out of water, they could go there and they could get some water. if their dry wells went dry and so forth. So it got me thinking, and I said, is this the piece of property that a previous selectman wanted to put up for sale? And, now it's making sense to me. I mean, that's probably the piece of property that was referred to as a town-owned piece of property. And I'm not so sure that that's a piece of property that we would want to sell, because of, where its location is and if it has a water source on it. But I'd want to know if the water was any good.
Well, few years back, it was, that water was specified not to be drinkable because it had bacteria and stuff growing in it. So they said it was basically specified that water could not be used for drinking.
Sometimes that happens when you don't use it.
Right.
Yeah, but they said they tested that well, it's just cannot use it for
What
water
you're supposed to do
drinking.
is you chlorinate it.
Yeah.
You do an initial chlorination, so it might just
Yeah.
be stagnant. But, that was on a list of town-owned properties, and it was taken off the list. And that certainly is up to the purview of the board on whether you want to sell it or not. But let's get all the research first before
Yeah.
let's not go and have an auction for a piece of property when we don't even know what we have and so forth.
Yeah, we already learned that the hard
Yeah,
way,
we learned that
yes.
the hard way, so.
Yes. All right, okay. Anything else, gentlemen? All set?
Yes.
All set? All right.
That's it?
So our next item after the town manager's report is the action item review. And I'm kind of just very briefly looking this over. And the only two things that we need to kind of be concerned about is, Julian, you wanted to review and update the public comment policy. And it was supposedly due in January, but we've been so busy. Do you
Yeah.
think that's something you'll be able to present to us in March?
Maybe.
Well, you're going to have to put it.
It's not on the priority of the things we have to get done, so.
Well, no, it isn't, but it's something that you requested, and
Yes, I did.
you've been asking about it for a while, so I'm going to tentatively put you on the list for the end of March to get some kind of a policy before the board. That'll give you a month,
Sure.
all right? And the other thing, too, is Greg, I think you had town website, we're
Right.
up onto the expiration of
right.
that. Is that something that you will be able to report to us at our next meeting, or do you need an extension?
I think we should do it after the elections.
After the elections,
Yeah.
okay, all right, so again, in end of March?
Yeah.
All right, and the rest of these other things, I guess, can wait for a while. Okay,
On that schedule, Madam
Yeah,
Chairman, can
yeah.
you take number 2 off on the possible sale of town-owned property?
certainly. And Beth will take care of that for us, right? Okay.
Is there
and-
any new news about the multiple telephone poles?
I've tried, and the chairman has tried. If you think that you could have better luck with it.
Well, you know what I'm ready to do
But-
very shortly is to ask you to recommend that we just bill the utility companies for all the double poles.
I thought that was
And
the
when they,
plan.
yes, well, I haven't, yeah, if you guys are in agreement with that, I
in
can
agreement
start
with
that
that.
ball rolling. And maybe we can take care of that. I just have to find out the process for how to do that. And if you want, I'll try to take care of that, and we can do that in our March meetings as well, because I think we have a couple of them. All right, I can take care of that.
It's a global problem,
Yep.
and the question is
I know.
that, who's going to push the envelope to get it done? So
Well,
I think this might help push it.
yeah, I think once they start to figure out that their bills have doubled, and next will be, all of a sudden,
It'll get their attention,
it will get
maybe.
their, yes, it will get their
But in their
attention, if nothing
pocketbook,
else,
you get their
because they're
attention.
not listening to any letters or threats or
reason for
bribes or
it.
cajoles. No, that's right. So we'll just make them pay for it.
And every time you call somebody, they point the finger at the other people.
I know,
It's
I know.
a blame game.
It's perfect bureaucracy at work.
You don't have to worry about that, it's whoever pays the bill.
Yeah.
Whoever pays the
All
tax
right.
bill is
All
gonna
right,
get
so,
hit.
so I'll get on that. And I'm guessing that probably the best person for me to contact would be Greg Colby to find out the ins and outs of that, or?
Well,
Who would I contact
Actually, I
for
think Mary Beth would be a person you'd
Oh,
want to
Mary
talk
Beth,
to.
okay,
She has a
great.
list.
All right.
And we have a list in my office of
Okay.
all the double poles. Do you
All
already
right.
have a list of the double poles?
I do, but there's been more put up, so I need to
Yeah, so
update
there's
it.
more.
Yeah, all right.
And
Okay.
you could talk to Greg Colby, but I'm not sure what kind of value he could give you, but I think that you're headed to talk to Sumner Kalman.
Oh, excellent. I love to talk to Sumner.
Okay.
Okay. All righty then, okay. I'm not so sure he loves to talk to me all the time, but I definitely enjoy speaking with him. All right, so if we're all done with action items, does anybody have any other business before we do selectmen reports? No? All right, so Greg, why don't we start with you with your selectmen
Okay,
reports?
so just to get people are aware, we had our IT assessment, and not going into much detail, one of the things that it did point out is our documentation is either lacking or missing in some cases. So I made a list of, I think it was the 8 documents they rated the lowest, or having to require as much more improvement to what we had currently. And I picked out 3 that I started working on, and so we now have a acceptable usage policy, a information security policy, and the one I just finished today was an information disaster recovery plan. Now, this is a IT disaster recovery plan, so it would be a piece of the town's disaster recovery plan. But the disasters we're talking about here are things that are related to information, not necessarily related to weather or related to other hurricanes or whatnot. So I talked with Mark. I wanted to make sure that I was helping and not hindering the process. So I will continue writing up these drafts. He's identified the police chief, the fire chief, the assistant town manager, and Lori Sadowitz to work with them. And I've already sent the first 2 documents to them, but I'll be sending this one here to them and setting up some time to be able to discuss the plan. Right now, the plan is kind of thinned down from what a corporate information IT disaster recovery plan is, and we're just a little small town, so a lot of things don't really apply. So I've allocated some space in here to allow us to put things in about the servers for the fire department, for the police department, the servers that we're using for the town, and to be able to put that detail inside of there. And I'm planning to work with Doug initially, because I know Doug has a lot of experience in this, and kind of focus on what are we missing in terms of either the design of this, or what are we missing in terms of the content that we needed within the town. And hopefully, if we get this thing in place, we can then just review this once a year. So all I'm doing right now is everything I produce as a draft, I'm sending the entire board a copy. There's nothing that you have to do about it. If you have time to read it, read it. If you have any input or feedback, please send it to me, and we'll apply it. Beth's helped proofread the first 2 policies, and she provided some really good input that we've added to it. You provided some information that we have added. So as we go along, a lot of these other things will fall out of these major documents. And hopefully at some time when Mark is a little less busy, I'd like to just sit down with him for a short time and strategize about these documents and how we're going to put them into place and how we're going to use them within the town.
Greg, is the EMS service is going to be dovetailing with any of this as well within the police department?
Well, as I said, we'll be meeting with Chris, and I will be meeting with Doug, and so we'll talk about their aspects. But as I said before, this is an IT disaster recovery, and if they're using computers, they're using servers, then they have an IT disaster.
Yeah.
But they also have other disasters and
Separate from this, yeah,
separate
understood,
from this that
understood.
are
Yeah.
much more like global disaster within the town. So this is one aspect of it. And because of the IT assessment, that's what they focused on. They didn't focus on.
Right.
And there's another thing called a business continuity. We have a disaster recovery. We have a way to get back to work.
Right.
So that applies for the town itself, and then it also applies in terms of IT
Emergency
stuff.
management
So
service.
we don't have servers, and then we get the servers available, or we get alternate servers available, and how do we get people back to work using their computers to be able to do the work and deliver services for the town?
All right, great. That's a huge project that you're doing, and I think you've been trying to work with Jay on that, so I thank both of you for doing this. This is a monumental task, and if there's any 2 people on this board qualified for it, it's the 2 of you. So thank you so much for taking that on. It's great. We appreciate that.
Documents look awesome.
Yeah. All righty. Is there anything else you?
Nope.
No, you've been busy enough.
Yes.
All right, so Julian, you're up next.
Well, I don't know much for a selectmen's report, but I did want to make a note that some time ago, I don't know how far it was, we were talking about that wasn't enough, that a lot of houses don't have house numbers on them. And when you go down the street for emergency response, you don't know which house you're going to. Like, let's say an EMS gets a call from someone, I'm at 23-something Lane, and they got a couple houses and there's no numbers. Which door do they knock down because they think someone's can't get to the door in that house? There's no, I thought there was some kind of,
Is that something you want to put on an action item list?
I thought we
and maybe
talked
talk to
about
the
it way
chief
back.
about? We
and-
did discuss it, but I don't think we made any
And we never did anything
concrete-
about it.
Right.
But I go around town, I'm still looking at this, there's sections of streets where you can't tell which house is what number.
so
So how
is
does
that-
emergency
Does
services
that
know where to go?
exist already?
There was an ordinance on that.
Yeah, I was going to just say, doesn't it already exist within
The ordinance
zoning?
exists, however,
Needs to be
we have, and we also need to involve the chief, Chief
Okay.
Knudsen in that as
In the
well, so.
commercial sector, they have to be a certain height, and we should require that for residential.
For the residential, too.
Right, so do you want to put that on an action item list for something
Yeah,
that
I
we need to
think-
discuss with the chief?
There already is an ordinance. It's just a matter of it probably needs to be enforced in some fashion.
Yeah, but we need to find out the best way
Whoever,
to do that.
the best way to do it, who will do it, and people probably don't know they're not complying with an ordinance.
That'd be a
They've been living there forever.
Great
Who knows?
Boy
you know?
Scout project.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Eagle
Oh, we have
Scout project.
projects already lined up for those
Just ask
kids.
the UPS guy, he knows where everybody is.
Yeah, but I could see an emergency person or a police officer busting down the wrong
Yeah.
door because they don't know which house is number 34.
All right, so again, my question to you is, do you want to put this on an action item
Yes.
list? All
Yes,
right, and maybe we'll see if we can put out a date for September maybe and
Yep.
get the chief involved in that. Okay, so Beth, would you kindly do that for us? All right, thank you.
And
All right.
and I will say this, that the fire chief is my first person to think
Right.
of to
Right.
work to do this, because they're pretty involved with the 911, and 911 is the one that has kind of controlled the addresses for the post office and so forth, so it's related, and of course, being an emergency service for the fire and the rescue, not to mention the police, but it would be a good project, and I think that he would take that on and
Yeah.
probably assign it to somebody in the fire department to try doing it. If you're looking for to do this, we have less we's in the building than we had a year ago.
I know.
So I don't think we's gonna do it. I think we have to find somebody to do it, and I think the fire department is gonna be a good place to
Okay,
start.
all right. All right, so we'll look at that maybe being completed in late fall to give him a chance to get ramped up and give him some
As
time.
long as someone's doing it.
Yeah, okay, all right. And anything else? No?
No.
All right, John, you're up.
Went to a conservation committee meeting last week, and we had a big discussion about the town forest. And we had Selt come in, some of the volunteers also. So we're going to redo all the trails in the town forest, so that's another, good-sized project, but that's a volunteer thing. And it seems to be going pretty well, actually. The other thing is I went to an old home day. That seems to be moving right along. So, went to a rec meeting, and we did discuss a little bit about, the water and the drainage around the fields. And you're doing pretty well
We're working on
keeping
it.
up with that, too. So, that's about it.
Okay, that's pretty good. All right.
So just some feedback on that. On the fields, I happen to be talking to the guys that cut the lawn over there at the,
It's dry.
at Park, and ironically, no one told me this, but after the drainage swale was cleaned out last year, and they were out there towards the end of the season and so forth, they told me that they did notice a difference where the lawnmowers were out there cutting, where previously they would sink down and get stuck by the batting cages. And that they've noticed a little bit of an improvement, which gives me some pause to think that we're on the right
Yes,
track here.
yes.
And that by putting additional drainage in, we're gonna really start drying up and allow that water to go where it needs to go. So, it's a comprehensive plan. But I feel confident after seeing the plans with the drainage pipes, and it's in all directions, and a berm down the parking lot to keep the water from sliding off the parking lot into the fields. It's a combination of everything, gutters on the building and directing the water away from the fields. We're starting from a point where the water was gathering. We're trying to manage the water. It's gonna be a work in progress to get there, but I think every year we're gonna make some progress on that.
Well, this spring, we'll hopefully see some you know, because get the teams out there early,
Yeah.
because like,
Yeah.
the past
Right.
couple of years, they couldn't do
Yep,
it.
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Get my
Well,
golf driving range open early, too.
I know, well, I walk down there all the time, and the water is flowing like nobody's business down there still, so, yeah.
That water
so-
that's moving is good.
Yeah.
That water was never moving before.
I know, and it's flowing like the Nile River. I want to put a barge on there.
You can take
like
a canoe at one
Cleopatra.
end, and you can take it all the way down.
Absolutely. I know, I know. All right, all set, John? All right, so most of the stuff that I did, we've already talked about. Attended an energy committee meeting for the street lighting. And we're looking at, I'm going to be probably bringing before you guys very shortly a request for an approval for this town hall lighting project. We discussed it last year and we never formally voted on it, so I'd like to get cracking on that pretty soon. We also have, we asked Unitil to do an electricity audit down at the Public Works for free. So we'll be looking at that and seeing if we can save any money out of our $48,000 electric bill there.
The Public Works?
No, at the, at
safety.
the safety complex, I'm sorry.
I'm going to say we have
Yeah,
all
you guys are all,
LED.
yeah, you guys are all set down there, yeah. We learned our lesson on that, yeah. So I attended a planning board meeting, and as I said, we spent a lot of time talking about visions for the future of the town and what and how and who we want to put into build. We're looking at doing a CARTA study, which is going to kind of examine the types of buildings and the places that we want to have in Plaistow, because there's no way you're going to prevent building from going on, particularly when water comes in. So we want to, you know, have a good handle and be proactive on that before it comes rushing at us. We all participated in voting, and I'm very pleased to announce to you that the Secretary of State said that we had, and I quote, a flawless voting turnout. So, you know, so I guess being old-fashioned and doing things by hand and by hand ballots does have its positive things. Yes.
Are we gonna have to calibrate the machines again?
Again, yes,
Every
we
time.
are. Yes, we are. And we're doing it 3 more times this year. And I will ask you guys later, but I'm hoping that the schedule that we had made out for for February is going to be good for March 11th for you guys. You guys are all set with that
I
schedule?
wanna work with Greg.
You don't want to work with Greg? All right. I'll keep you on opposite ends of the
No,
room
I
then.
want to.
Oh, you do?
wants to.
All right, okay, all right.
We were a good team.
Yes, yes, all right. Let me see. I had a meeting with John Sherman and Bill Coy over the weekend regarding some of the stuff that Mark had already discussed with the rec department. Attended the courthouse meeting, which was already a done deal. 2 minutes after we walked in, we kind of figured that out. Also had a track meeting this past week, too. So our little project for this year is we're going to start looking at potentially a new trash vendor, because our contract expires in July of 2021, so we want to get a jump on that. We've explored a bunch of different things, either no trash pickup, some trash pickup, all trash pickup, no recycling, pay-as-you-throw. We're looking at a whole bunch of stuff, so they will be coming before the board sometime, hopefully next year, to do that with you guys. And there's also a bill that was put on the House floor that still has to be voted on by the Senate, that authorizes towns in New Hampshire to ban plastic bags. And so, of course, the TRAC committee is very big on that. So as soon as the Senate votes yay or nay on that, we may be bringing that before the board as well to ask to ban plastic bags in Plaistow. They're already doing that in Haverhill, so it may not.
Can do that? Wow.
I think it would be great personally,
Wow.
but we'll see.
Bottle's gotta be next.
Yeah, well, whatever happens, happens, but it's still, the bill's still in the House, so we don't know if and when that's going to move forward, but I just wanted to throw that out there to you guys. So I think
I
the,
have one more
yeah,
thing.
go ahead, sorry.
I was talking to a resident of Walton Road, and they're very happy that with the reduction in traffic and everything, their kids can go out and play in the street pretty much now without being run over, or risk of being run over.
Yeah,
And I could tell by the chalk markings on the roads area that their kids are
you're
using
playing
it.
hopscotch, yeah.
But anyway, but that brings up an issue. Way back when we first decided by public meeting, we closed the end of that road, but it's only a temporary blockage. It's just a couple concrete barriers that are stuck at the end of the road. And it was said that we couldn't make that a permanent closure. Is there any reason why we can't make it a permanent closure? Can we bring that up again?
I don't remember what it was.
Is it an active right-of-way?
Well, I don't know. You can't drive through there now.
I think.
Well, now you can't.
You can't
But
get
I'm
through there
saying,
anyway.
If it was somebody else's right of way, or is it a right of way of the town?
I don't know, but it seems like it'd be
Do you
better just
re-
to make it permanent
do
and
you
put a
recall
couple
when
trees
it
there and
was
get rid of
done?
those barriers.
Do you recall when it was done? Because
It was
we
a
could
few years
research
ago.
that.
It was a
All
few
right.
years
Maybe we
ago.
could ask John Sherman, I bet he might
And I
know.
think Chief Jones, said that it couldn't be permanent.
She was part of it, yeah.
But I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe the rules have changed. But it would be nice to just make that permanent, and so it doesn't look that bad, but it could look decent.
All right.
Because it's just two
Can I-
concrete
We can
barriers
put
stuck
that
there.
on our list.
Yeah.
Can I just make a
Yeah.
suggestion? We're working on potentially connecting up to the Penachuk system, that would connect up right in that area. Let's see how that plays out before
Yeah.
we start making plans, one way or the other, for that connection. Because if we, at the time, if we end up tearing it up to
Yeah.
pick some pipes up, that'd be the, more or less
More
the
time to take a look
talk
at
about
it.
than
Yep.
to try to do something now.
Well, I don't say we don't have to do it now, but let's find out if we can do it. And so we can plan on it.
Right.
Because right now, it's just sitting there forever, temporary barriers at the end of people's streets. It just
All right.
seems a shame to leave it that way.
All right. Okay, good to note. So if there's no other agendas, I think we're going to go start approving non-public minutes, and then we do need to go into a non-public setting.
What category do we need to go in?
So can we approve the non-public minutes first? And the person that was supposed to be here